So today we are going to see that how reading and writing with respect to file can be performed. So as we all know that file is the basic unit where you can store some kind of information. So if at all we want to store any information, so we are going to store them in the form of the files. So as we all know that the files will be or it has to be stored in an organized manner so that you can access it in a predefined way or you can access in a better way. So in order to access in a better way, you need to organize the files. So usually we are going to store the files under a folder, and a folder can be stored under a different folder also. So if you consider any folder, so a folder can contain any subfolders as well as the files also. So if you consider any files, the file will have two key properties. So one is the file name and the path. So all of you are well aware that so every file will have a file name. Along with that, it also will have a file extension even. And the entire path from the root and till the file we are going to consider in order to name any file. So that is, if you want to access any file, so you can write the entire path in order to access that particular file. Suppose that if you are working in a particular directory and if you have created the file in that particular directory itself, so then you can just access that particular file using the file name itself. You don't need to specify the entire path, right? So in order to access any file, so if you are working in a particular directory and if you have saved that file in that particular directory itself, for example in this hierarchy, so C is the root directory. So in case of Windows, the way the hierarchy of the files will be maintained or the file system will be maintained is different as compared to Linux. So in case of Linux, so root directory is dot slash. In case of Windows, the root directory is C colon slash. Right? C colon, we also access it or we also call it as C drive in case of Windows. So you can use the root directory followed by any directories under that if you have the file. For example, if I have the file called project.docs, right? So which is stored under documents, and documents is stored under as wget, and this is stored under users, and this is stored under the root directory. So you have this particular directory structure. So if you want to specify the path in order to access this particular file, so the path can be written as c colon slash users slash as wget slash document slash product.docs. So this is how you are going to access this particular file. So any file system, if you consider, there will be a hierarchy of the folders and the files that will be maintained. So that the entire path, so that is from the root till the file name, so you call it as the actual path. So if you are going to write it in the same way, then you call it as uh, the actual path. So the way in which the root folders are maintained on Windows and Linux is, so on Windows you are going to use the backslashes. On Linux you will be using the forward slash. Okay, to work on all operating systems. So suppose that if you want to specify, if you have already written some path name and you were working on Windows, so you have written the path name using the backward slashes like this. So suppose that if you want to access the file, so which is present on Linux system, so then you have to convert all these forward slashes to backward slashes, right? So in that case, so you have to write the entire path again. So instead of that, so you can make use of the method called join in case of Python. So when you are going to pass the parameters as the strings, that is the document names as the folder names as the string, so then it will be providing you the actual slashes which are supported on either the Windows or Unix, right? So suppose that if you want to work on Windows, you want to specify the path name using backslashes. So then you can pass the parameters as. So you can look at this example. So this is the example for the join method what you can use in order to obtain the current path. So you are going to provide the folder names as users, nethr, and then this is the folder under which you have 2021. So when I pass all these as the strings, so it uses the slash which is supported on my system. So on my system, I am using Windows operating system. So it will be using the backward slashes in order to provide the path name. So you can see that once after I obtain the current path, so this is the current path which has been displayed here. So I have just given the strings, so which are nothing but the folder names. So all these folder names has been concatenated using this backward slash. So backward slash are supported on Windows. So you'll be using the backward slash in order to provide the path name. So suppose that if I have obtained this as a current path name, and if I just want to shift to um, the Linux system, so where I need to convert all these paths. So in that case, if I call this join method, so all these backward slashes will get converted to forward slashes based on whichever the operating system on which you are executing this join method. So that is how this join method will be helpful. Instead of we explicitly giving the slashes, it provides you the slashes based on whichever the operating system on which you are executing this join method. So that providing the path name will not be a difficult, or you don't need to change all those slashes in order to give the path name. So this is also the same example here. See here, whenever we need to provide the path name, so suppose that if you are here, I'm using this join method itself. I'm using the join method and I'm suggesting two path names here. So my files has got a list of strings here, and then if I want to convert each of them to a particular path, so then I'm using for file name in my files. My files has got a list of strings here. All these strings will be accessed one after the other, and you are calling a join method and you are passing two parameters. So what happens here is it is similar to whatever that program we just saw now. So here I have passed multiple strings. So here also I'm passing two strings. So both of them will be joined using that particular uh, path separators. So that is either the backward slash or the forward slash. So if I'm using the Windows, so both of them will be concatenated. Both the strings will be concatenated using the backward slash. So if I'm executing the same join method on Linux, both of them will be concatenated using the forward slash, right? So here you can see that C colon. So you can observe that I have given two backslashes. So that is because that as you know that it has a certain meaning. So in order to use it as a meta character, you are escaping that backslash. So that is why I have written two backslashes here. So though you use this two backslashes in order to concatenate or join these two strings, so you can obtain the output as the single backslash itself. Okay, fine. Next, so you can also obtain the current working directory using getcwd method. So you can obtain, if at all you want to execute this path method also, path dot join method also. So you need to import this module called OS. So under OS you have this path module. So under that you have this join method. Okay, so you have to import this OS module in order to access this path method also. Right. So you, if at all you want to find out that under what particular directory I'm currently working, so you can make use of this get cwd method, right? So which is written under the OS module. So you can access this get cw method in order to obtain the current working directory. So presently, if we were working under this Python directory, so you'll be getting the absolute path. So this is the absolute path, right? So if at all you want to change the directory, so you can also do that with the help of chdir. So I think most of you are like you are familiar with Linux. So since you have the Linux also this time, so you might be quite familiar. So you can change the directory, you can create a directory, you can check that in what particular directory that you are working. So using suitable APIs in case of Linux, in the same way you can make use of different methods which are available in Python in order to check that in which particular directory that you are working. So using these particular methods. So os.chdr is the method that you can use in order to change the directory. So suppose that if that particular directory, whatever that you have suggested in order to change, if it is not available, so then it gives you an error saying that the file name is not available. Right, the directory doesn't exist. It gives you an error saying that it doesn't exist. So you can see that we are trying to obtain the current working directory. So the current working directory under which I am working is c colon users nethr and then spider hyphen py3 2021 my files. So this is the current working directory of mine. So now I'm calling the join method and I'm passing all these strings so that it gives me the entire uh, path name. It joins all these strings using that particular slash based on whether I'm working on Windows or Linux. So if I'm working on Windows, it will be giving me the backward slash. If I'm working on Windows, it will be giving me the forward slash. And current path. So this is, I'm printing the same here. And then I'm trying to change the current path. Yeah. So initially it gave me the current working directory as my files, and I have obtained the current path. So that is, I have joined all these strings and I have obtained 2021 also under my this current path. So that is the string that I am passing, and the same string I am passing to change directory in order to change my particular directory from my files to 2021. Sorry, from my files. So I think it's not been displayed here properly. Okay. So then if you try to obtain the current working directory, it displays the same. So next, coming to absolute and relative path, all of you might be knowing that you are going to make use of dot and dot dot in order to specify the current directory under which you are working, and the parent directory can be accessed using dot dot. Suppose that if I am working in my files, under my files, and if I want to access the file which is present in my parent directory, I can just write it as dot dot slash, and then I can give the file name so that I can access the file which is present in the parent directory. So suppose that if I want to access the file which is present in my file, so then I can directly give the file name, or else I can also use dot slash. So you might have observed that most of the time whenever you generate any output in case of C programs, so the output file will be generated with the name as a.out, right? So a.out is the normal file, output file that will be generated, right? And dot slash specifies that the output file is present in the current working directory. That is why you use dot slash, and then you are going to provide a.out. Yeah. So here we'll see that how you can write the relative paths So currently, according to this diagram, so we are under this directory called bacon, right? So we are working under this directory called bacon. So if I want to access any file which is present under this directory, the relative path what I can give is dot slash. And if I want to access my parent directory, which is c:/, so then I can use dot dot and slash. So always you refer to the parent directory with the help of two dots. Two dot and a slash you can use in order to refer to the parent directory. Suppose that if you have some file which is stored in the parent directory, so then you can give it as, and I'm currently in bacon directory. So you can give it as dot dot slash and then the parent, that is the file in the parent directory that you can specify in order to access that. And any file further from this bacon directory if you want to access, you can, because you are referring from the current working directory. So you can give it as dot slash, under dot slash you have fizz, right? And if you want to access the file which is present under fizz, so you can write it as dot slash fizz and spam dot text, right? So similarly, this is the file which is present in bacon directory. So you can directly give it as dot slash and spam dot text, right? So this is another directory which is under c:/. So then in order to access this X directory, so how do you refer to the parent directory? Using dot dot. So this EGGS X directory is under c:. So if you want to access c: from bacon, so you can use double dots. So that is dot dot slash, and then you can directly give the directory name under c:, because using dot dot you can access c:, and then X, right? If you want to access the file, it is the same. I hope it is clear to you all. And then if you want to write with absolute file name, it is quite very simple. You can directly write it c:/, and then this is the current working directory of yours. So you can just write it as c:// bacon. So if you want to access fizz, c:, because fizz is under bacon, c:, bacon fizz. So the spam is under fizz. So you use the same path name slash spam.txt. So we are accessing the file under the current working directory of Windows operating system. So we are using the backward slashes. And then if you want to access spam.txt, which is under bacon again, so that is why bacon followed by spam. So X is under c:, so that is why it is c:/x and so on, right? So dot slash at the start of the relative path is optional. Suppose that if you have the file, if you are currently working in a directory and if you want to access the same file, so then either you can use dot slash or else you can directly specify as spam.txt itself. Next, so if you want to create a directory, you can make use of make dir. So I think the same command that you are going to use in case of Linux also. So if you want to create multiple directories, for example, all these directories are not available on C under c:. So if you want to create waffles, instead of just creating waffles under C, you also want to create some more directories in between. Even that can be done with the help of this make dirs is the method that you are going to use. So which is declared under OS module, right? So using that you can create multiple directories. So here you are newly creating delicious directory. Under delicious you have walnut directory. Under walnut directory you have waffles, right? So next, OS path module. So just now we saw that you can make use of OS path method in order to obtain the entire path given the strings. So you are going to pass the strings as argument and you are going to obtain the complete path. So that is given the absolute path, that is you can obtain the absolute path as well as you can also check that whether the path whatever that you have passed is is an absolute path or not. So there are different methods in order to support that. Okay. So OS module provides certain functions and in order to obtain the absolute path of a relative path, and you can also check whether the path whatever that you have passed is absolute path or not. Okay, so ABS path, OS dot path, under path you have this ABS path, so this is absolute path, right? And you will be passing a path, so that will be returning a string of absolute path. So I have done an example for this. I'll just show with that. So S is equal to os dot path dot apps path. So dot specifies the current directory under which we are working, right? So that it returns us the absolute path. Absolute path contains all the directories and subdirectories under that particular path. So that is why you are going to obtain the output as C colon users nethr spider hyphen py3 2021 and my file. So this is the current working directory of mine. Okay, so I'm printing that, and then I'm just checking that whether is it an absolute path. Is it dot an absolute path? No, of course. So if you want to specify the absolute path, it has to be returned in the full manner. So else dot is a relative path. So that is why it is printing as false. So is apps, with is apps you will be checking that whether the path whatever that you have given as argument is the absolute path or relative path. So if it is, it will be returning a boolean value as either true or false. So next, here I'm using the same method, but I'm passing the absolute path whatever I have obtained from this method, and it has been stored in yes, that I am passing as argument. So when I am going to pass this, yes, the value of s is this, the absolute path. So when I pass this as argument, obviously it has to return me a true value, right? So next, so here we have a chain of functions. Here you can observe apps path. So you are obtaining the absolute path using a dot. So then obviously the value will be equivalent to C colon users and so on. And again you are passing that as an argument to is apps. Obviously you are going to obtain an absolute path with this. So that is why it is returning the value as true. Next. So we can also perform reading and writing of files. So that is, as we all know that any file that you want to perform a read or write operation on, first it has to be created and then it has to be opened, and then you can perform either read or write operation. Okay, even in case of Unix also you might have studied this. So even a simple file if you want to create also, this is the normal procedure that you need to follow. So there are 3 steps in order to read and write to the files. So first of all you need to open the file. So so that is even in case of Unix also you might have observed that whenever you open the file, it also provide you an option of creating the file if the file is not existing. So you are going to create the file as well as you are going to open the file with the help of this open method. Okay, so once after you open the file, so then you can perform the read or write operation. We'll just see that how we can do those things, right? So in order to open the file, you're going to use the open method, right? You will be using the open method, and which file you have to open. So either you can suggest the file name itself directly. If we suggest the file name directly, then this file will be created if it is not existing under the current working directory. Or else if you suggest a different path using the absolute path, so then the file will be created in a different path itself. So once if it is created, so with the help of open, you can perform both the things. So if the file is not existing, it will create a new file and it will open, right? So if the file is already existing, it will just open, right? So here I have passed only one parameter. You can also pass 2 parameters to the open method. So in order to suggest that in what mode that you want to open the file, right? So if you are not suggesting any mode in which you are supposed to open the file, so then it opens the file using the default mode, which is the read mode. Okay, so once after it opens the file, it will be returning an file object. It will be returning a file object. So usually we call it as file handler. So here that is, it will be returning an object which is called file object. So further, any file operations that you are going to perform, you are going to make use of this file object in order to perform that. So that is either you, if you want to perform the read operation or the write operation, so you'll be using this file object in order to perform that, right? So here you can see that I have used two parameters. So one is the complete file path name, and I'm suggesting that I just want to open the file using read mode. Okay, so the file object represents a file on the computer. So if you want to perform the read operation on the file, you can open the file with the mode as a read. So suppose that if I open the file in read mode, we can't perform the write operation on that, right? Okay. So next, if you want to read the contents of the file, just now we saw that if at all you want to read the file, first of all, the file has to be created and it should be open in order to perform the read operation. So if at all you want to write the statement should be preceded with the open statement in order to obtain the file object, and then you can use that file object in order to call this read method. Okay. So that is what is it's been mentioned in these two lines, right? So here what are we doing is we are opening the file called sonnet29.txt, and this will be returning a file object. So using that file object you are calling read lines, right? So read lines will be helpful if you are trying to read multiple lines from the file. And okay, I'll tell you with the example. Okay, so next, if at all you want to perform the write operation, so you, first of all, as you know that you have to open the file and you have to specify the mode as write mode. So we can also call this write mode as write plain text mode, or you can also open the file in append mode. I'll be showing you with the example. So once we open the file in either write mode or append mode, you can start writing to the file. And before that, it should be open. And once after performing either the write operation or the read operation, you need to close the file, right? And with respect to read, it will be returning some value. So the value what it returns is nothing but the number of characters that will be read, or the data itself, whatever it will be read will be returned. Okay, in case of write operation, it will be returning an integer value mentioning that how many characters has been returned to the file. Okay, but in case of read operation, it will be returning the entire text whatever it is going to read. Okay, let us look at this example. See, in case of this, I have declared a string and I'm trying to extract some characters as input. I'm going to store it in str, right? And after that, I'm trying to open the file called text3 in append mode. So this is append mode in which I'm trying to open this particular file. Okay. So once I open this file, the file will be created if it is not existing, and it is opened in append mode so that you can also write into the file, and it returns the file object called file obj, right? And this file obj can be used further in order to perform any read or write operation to the file. So I'm using this file of obj itself, and I'm calling this a write method in order to write this particular text whatever I'm going to get from the keyboard, right? So once you write, it will be returning the number of bytes whatever, or the number of characters whatever that you have written into this file. Okay, so you can see that. So here whenever it asks me to enter the contents, I have written the contents as WTIRE. Wrongly I have just typed like this, the contents. So this is the input what I have given. So it is of totally 19 characters. It has returned me as 19, right? And then next, after this I'm closing this file, because this you have to observe carefully. So once you write the contents As you know that in order to write any contents to the file, there will be a file pointer that will be maintained. For example, even if you open the Windows also, sorry, Word document also, so you can see that as I try to keep on writing, so you can see that my cursor will be pointing to the next location. So if at all I want to read from the beginning again, I need to get back my cursor to the starting location and then I have to start reading that. So you have different methods like lseek, all those things in Linux, right? So you have to perform that in order to get back your cursor to the first starting position and then you have to start reading. Otherwise, if your cursor is at the last position and if you start reading, it can't read anything. That is why, so it is better to close the file after performing the read operation and then open the file, or else you have to make use of lseek, right? Even that is supported on Python. And then again I'm opening the same file in read mode, right? And then I'm starting reading that particular file. So it will be returning some characters, whatever it is going to read, and that will be printed here. And then later, again, I'm closing this and again, I'm opening it in append mode, right? And I'm trying to write something. See, there is difference between the write mode and append mode. So in case of write mode, if you close the file and again try to write some contents into the file, the older contents will be erased and the newer contents will be added into the file. So if you don't want that to happen, if you don't want to discard the older contents of the file, so then you can open the file in append mode so that the older contents will be present and whatever the new contents that you are going to add into the file will be appended towards the end of the file. Okay, I have opened in append mode and I'm going to write the contents into the file as append to the file. And again, I'm going to close it because I want to perform the read operation and find out that whether my older contents as well as the newer contents are present in the file or not. Okay, let me just show you the output. So it returns me 19. I had written WTIRE, the contents, and then I have also append to the file. So once after I perform this read operation at the end, so this is the output what I have obtained. So the older contents are there and along with that, this content has been appended to the file. Okay, so only up to this will be there for your internals. You can just refer to the same slides. So this is what. Okay, thank you all.